Hey everybody, it is January 25th, 2009. I'm Sonic Suns. This morning posted my 400th video, by the YouTube counting scheme anyway, entitled Dawn of the Wild Web Comic. But now we're on video 401. And if there is anyone out there who's seen all my stuff from the beginning, specifically the very first video, which was entitled The Beginning, you might, theoretically, remember a certain statement that I made.
I'll be talking about the Second Law of Thermodynamics later.
I said that I was going to talk about the Second Law of Thermodynamics. And now, 400 videos later, I am fulfilling that promise thing that nobody cares about. 400 videos later, I said I would talk about it. And okay, so here we go. Now I have to admit that when the vast majority of scientists and stuff all believe in the Second Law of Thermodynamics, my questioning of it, which I'm about to do, would seem rather odd. I have to admit the high probability that I'm wrong in some way, but I really don't get how this works. Consider it less of me dogmatically saying I must be right, it's more of me just, okay, someone explain this to me. Because I don't... The Second Law of Thermodynamics states, well, here's a great thing, there's no one way of stating it. Which is just tremendously confusing. You're trying to look it up and figure out what it is. One thing it states is that entropy is always increasing. What does that mean? Well, it means that stuff is always breaking down. Stuff is always becoming more mundane. Stuff is always losing the ability to do useful work. So it's becoming less organized. Which, right from the outset, is kind of weird, because it's like, well, what counts as useful work, per se? What counts as, like, you know, more organized, per se? What counts as a higher value of a thing, per se? I don't know, but, the thing says that entropy is always increasing in a closed system, in that any closed system will break down given enough time. Now this makes sense to me, and any, say, man-made structure, machine, whatever, you know, your car engine continually needs more fuel, you know? You have to keep putting more stuff into it. If it's just in there by itself and you have like a limited amount of fuel, it's not going to run on that forever. Sure. But the only true closed system is the universe, or multiverse, or whatever it may be. And as far as I can tell, isn't that stuff kind of doing the opposite? Like, okay, first off we have the Big Bang. I'm not sure if that counts as really organized stuff, really unorganized, or great potential or not potential, or... But anyway, within like a few minutes of the Big Bang, I mean, you know, you would look like, anyway, gazillions of particles, entirely unorganized, just shooting out all over the place, right? Which supposedly, this Second Law of Thermodynamics thing is supposed to take us to the eventual end of the universe. There's the heat death of the universe, they call it, where just like all like the life forms everywhere break down, all the planets, all the galaxies, everything just breaks down and becomes like perfectly even mesh. You know, there's no differences between here and there, and it's all just like one temperature, and it's not doing anything interesting or useful of any kind at all. Just a big mesh of particles just like sitting around. Yeah. I think it's supposed to happen like 10 to the 14 years from now or something, but still. Like, really? Because we start off, I think, in this big old mesh thing, soon after the Big Bang, particles just all over the place. And then they start organizing. They start organizing in very superclusters and galaxies in there, their star systems and their planets. Now, where did that come from? Where exactly is it? It's organizing. I mean, even on like an Earth itself, you have a big old cloud of just plain old nothing, which then, due to gravity, organizes itself into something interesting. That stuff, by the way, there's also the random just chaos, things lying around on the surface of Earth. But eventually they become single-celled life forms somehow, spontaneously organizing. And they become multi-celled life forms, they become blah, 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 and eventually you get, like, whole societies of creatures. And then you get humans that take society to a whole new level of all sorts of things and thoughts. And as far as I can tell, we're going to go off and, like, colonize Mars someday and other planets. And maybe may already be other species out there, aliens that are already doing this. And we'll just keep going and going and going and on and on and on. And we'll find, ways to go to other galaxies or something. I don't know. And organize everything. I keep saying organize. It sounds like, we're being OCD about it. We need to put everything in this little box. You know what I mean? They're like creating just random, like, rocks lying around, and you form that into, I don't know, a machine or a life form, if you have the right materials in your rocks, yada yada. Just how life began in the first place, really. It was just rocks and some, water and just random chemicals all around, and eventually crap happened. And yet they say, no. Overall, the exact opposite will happen. Things are breaking down. They say, yes, a living organism is more organized, is a higher state than, other stuff around it. But supposedly it maintains this thing by somehow, like, draining the rest of the universe. Like, there's some negentropy, I think they call it, of, like, a human sustaining itself. But this is causing even more entropy elsewhere. How does that work? Like, when we keep going off and we colonize planets and stuff, like, is there some cosmic battery somewhere that's being drained? I don't see how that would work, I keep going, I'm trying to look up, like, they try and teach you what the second law means. They say things like, you can't eat an apple twice, can you? No? Okay, you limited number of apples, you can eat them, and then you're done. And then, you run out of stuff. You run out of heat potential, the availability to do work. You can't eat an apple twice. Actually, you can eat an apple twice, just not directly. You eat an apple, and in the process you happen to disperse some of the seeds, and those seeds eventually form apple trees, which form like a dozen more apples, in a few years or something, I don't know. Right? Or like you can't burn a piece of coal twice. Like, well, you could. You burn the coal, and that keeps you alive long enough so you survive, and eventually, there's generations reproduce and everything, and this forms a whole bunch of carbon-based life forms, and eventually they die out, and their bones go down into the earth, and blah 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 blah. Eventually forms fossil fuels. So they're called fossil fuels. They're made of fossils, right?